Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, the place to listen, learn, and improve your English through stories. Learn English with Tailverse.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another inspiring episode on this channel, where you not only hear powerful life stories, but you also improve your English while you're at it. If you're learning English and looking for motivation at the same time, you're in the right place. Today's story is about a man who turned pain into laughter. They laughed at him. They called him weird, loud, too emotional. He failed again, and again, and again. But what if I told you that this man, who once cleaned toilets just to survive, would go on to become one of the most beloved actors in the world? This is not just a story about Hollywood. It's a story about belief, vision, and what happens when you refuse to give up. And by the end of this video, not only will you know Jim Carrey's true story, you'll also learn powerful English expressions, advanced vocabulary, and grammar used by real native speakers. Let's begin. A childhood of chaos and survival. Jim Carrey wasn't born into comfort or wealth. He was born into a storm, one that would shake his family to the core. In 1962, in Ontario, Canada, Jim came into the world as the youngest of 4 children. His father, Percy, was a saxophone player with big dreams. Dreams he gave up to support the family with a steady job. But what happens when even steady disappears? One day, Percy lost his job, and in an instant, the entire Carrey family lost everything. No house, no security, no certainty. They had to move into a broken-down van and call it home. Can you imagine being a teenager, waking up in the back of a freezing van, not knowing where your next meal is coming from? For many, that would be the end. But for Jim, it was the beginning. At the age of 15, he dropped out of school, not because he hated studying, but because he had to survive. He took a job as a janitor, 8 hours a day, cleaning floors, scrubbing toilets. While most kids his age were thinking about parties or school dances, Jim was thinking about how to keep his family alive. And yet, somehow, he kept a spark alive. In the middle of hardship, in the middle of cold nights and invisible tears, he discovered the one thing no one could take from him: laughter. But here's the question: how do you turn laughter into a weapon when life keeps punching you in the face? That was the question Jim Carrey would spend the next years of his life trying to answer. The rise of a clown in the shadows. Pain has a strange way of shaping performers. Some people cry in the dark. Jim Carrey? He made people laugh in the light while bleeding inside. After dropping out of school, Jim began performing stand-up comedy in Toronto's small, smoke-filled clubs. He was just a teenager, awkward, poor, and unknown. The audience didn't care. They wanted jokes, and Jim wasn't funny. Not yet. His early shows were a disaster. Awkward silences, forced laughs, cold stares. Have you ever stood on stage trying to make people laugh while they just
sit there, waiting for you to fail. Most people would have quit right there, but Jim didn't. Why? Because he had nothing else. And sometimes nothing is the greatest motivator in the world. Night after night, he went home, rewrote his jokes, practiced in front of a mirror, and studied every move, every face, every sound. He didn't just want to be funny. He wanted to master the art of being unforgettable. But behind all the laughter, he was hurting. Jim suffered from depression. He would lock himself in his room for days, battling thoughts that told him he wasn't good enough, wasn't talented, wasn't anything. So what kept him going? What makes someone keep fighting when no one is clapping? One word: vision. Jim saw something no one else could see. Not the crowd, not the club owners, not even his own family. He saw a future where people didn't just laugh, they remembered. Where he wasn't just a comedian, he was a message. A message that pain is not the end, that laughter is a weapon, and that broken kids can become legends.
The $10 million check. How far would you go to believe in something no one else can see? Jim Carrey was still broke, still struggling, still invisible to Hollywood. No major roles, no money, just a young man with a few bad gigs, a beat-up car, and an impossible dream. But sometimes, when the world refuses to believe in you, you have to do something crazy. One night, in 1985, Jim drove up to the top of Mulholland Drive in Los Angeles. The city lights sparkled below, full of stars who had already made it. And there he was, broke, unknown, and dreaming. So what did he do? He pulled out his checkbook and wrote himself a check for $10 million, payable to Jim Carrey, for acting services rendered. Dated Thanksgiving 1995. He folded the check, placed it in his wallet, and kept it there for years. Day after day, month after month, through rejection, through poverty, through tears. That check stayed with him, not as money, but as proof of belief. People laughed. Some even called him delusional. But here's the truth. If your dream doesn't sound crazy to others, maybe it's not big enough. And then, almost exactly 10 years later, it happened. In 1994, Jim Carrey was cast in Dumb and Dumber and was paid, yes, $10 million. The same number, the same vision, the same belief made real. So let me ask you, what check are you writing to your future? What belief are you carrying in your pocket, even if no one else sees it?
Fame, faith, and the message behind the smile. Jim Carrey made it. He became a global icon. His movies earned billions. His face was everywhere. The Mask, Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, Bruce Almighty, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But here's the twist. Fame wasn't the final destination. Because even with all the money, all the laughter, and all the awards, something still felt empty. So Jim went deeper. He started asking different questions, not how can I be richer or more famous, but who am I really? And maybe the bigger question is this: if you're loved by the whole world, but you don't love yourself, does any of it matter? Jim began studying philosophy, spirituality, psychology. He started speaking not just as an actor, but as a thinker, a guide, a wounded healer. He spoke about depression, about ego, about freedom from identity. One of his most famous quotes, "I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of, so they can see that it's not the answer." So what is the answer? According to Jim, the answer is this: you are not your job. You are not your name. You are not your failures. You are the light behind it all. He once said, "The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is." So let me leave you with this. What effect are you having on others? What will they remember? Your job title or your impact? Because one day, like Jim, you'll realize that success isn't about applause. It's about authenticity and the courage to keep smiling even when the world stops laughing. You've just heard the real story of Jim Carrey, a man who lost everything, yet kept believing. A man who turned laughter into power and pain into purpose. But here's the truth, my friend. This story isn't just about Jim. It's about you. What are you going to do with your pain? What dream are you going to believe in, even if nobody else does? Remember this: you don't need to be rich to be powerful. You don't need to be perfect to make an impact. And you don't need to wait for permission to start becoming who you are meant to be. So stand up, show up, speak up. Because one day, someone will look at your story and say, if they did it, maybe I can too. So let me ask you a question. What part of his journey inspired you the most? What did you learn from this story that you'll carry with you today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if this story moved you, don't forget to follow the channel, because your journey in English and in life is just getting started. Stick around. Let's grow together.